This time, we're going to try and untangle a legal situation that you brought to our attention.
Yeah, this
Okay,
one's pretty
so
interesting.
It
today
involves a judge
we're
recusing
diving into some
himself, and
pretty
it really
dense
raises
stuff.
some
A listener
questions,
sent this
especially
in,
considering
and wow, it's a lot.
Yeah, it's a court case down in Los Angeles.
Ricky Lee Pinzon v. Secretary of the State of California et al. Case number 23 PSCV 00725 if you want to look it up.
And it's, well, there are allegations of judicial misconduct, denial of disability accommodations.
and a very unique legal argument.
Yeah, kind of a fascinating mix all coming together.
Yeah, so we've got court filings, we've got legal documents, reports. We really wanted to take a look at this and see.
Kind of break it down.
Yeah, what's going on here? What are the big questions that this case is bringing up?
Right, and how can we understand them without getting lost in all the legal mumbo-jumbo?
Exactly. So the case, it all stems from a motor vehicle incident back on April 10th, 2022.
The plaintiff, Mr. Pinzon, was apparently struck by an L.A. County Sheriff's deputy.
Which led to the initial lawsuit.
But then the legal process itself seems to have become a major part of the story.
Yeah, one of the first things that jumped out at me was this rejected peremptory challenge against Judge Christian R. Gullen.
In a peremptory challenge, just so everyone knows, it lets a party object to a judge without having to give a specific reason.
Right, just, I don't want this judge, basically.
Right.
But it was rejected, reportedly because the court required a physical filing.
Instead of electronic.
Which seems, I don't know, kind
A
of...
bit archaic, in this day and age.
All right. And then on top of that, there's this allegation that the case was then moved over to family court.
Improperly, allegedly, and without Mr. Pinzon even being told.
Yeah, so you've got these procedural questions right off the bat.
And it makes you wonder about the impact. Did these early issues affect things later on?
Absolutely, and the documents do suggest that. There was this whole issue with a summary judgment filed by Kelly A. Ward.
Right, a summary judgment. That's where the court basically says, look, there's no real dispute about the facts here, so we can just decide this case without a full trial.
And then there's former U.S. Representative Patrick E. Stockalper's name pops up.
Which raises some questions about possible conflicts of interest because his firm sponsors judges.
And there are even allegations about attempts to terminate Mr. Pinzon's Social Security benefits. So we're talking about way more than just a simple car accident, really.
It's really snowballing.
Yeah.
And then you have the issue of disability accommodation.
Yeah, big one.
Mr. Pinzon has documented bilateral hearing loss confirmed by medical records and the SSA.
Right, and so he formally requests real-time transcript and audio streaming during the proceedings back on March 17th, 2025.
Makes sense, right?
Seems reasonable, yeah. But then the very next day,
Judge Bryant Y. Yang denies it.
saying that microphones and a hearing aid are enough, and that's where things get really, really interesting.
Right. It raises a really crucial point about how courts are handling disability accommodations.
Are they really ensuring equal access for everyone?
Yeah. And get this. The day after denying the accommodation, Judge Yang recuses himself from the case. And it's worth noting that he's also on the Legal Service Trust Fund Commission, a judicial appointment to the State Bar Council.
So the timing of all of that is just...
Yeah, it definitely raises some eyebrows.
Then there's the motion to record the proceedings, right? Because there was apparently a shortage of court reporters.
And there's a general order that lets self-represented litigants record in those situations.
So Mr. Pinzon asks if he can record the hearings to have an accurate record.
And the judge denies that too.
And that is when he brings out this double derivative action argument, which is just fascinating.
It's kind of like imagine in corporate law, where a shareholder sues on behalf of a parent company to protect the interests of a subsidiary.
So it's like a lawsuit within a lawsuit, almost.
In a way, yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Pins is basically saying that the court, as part of the government, failed in its duty to protect his rights as a disabled, unrepresented litigant.
Especially without an official transcript.
Exactly. So by denying the motion to record, he's arguing that the court's inaction could have much wider implications.
Potentially violating his constitutional rights to due process and equal access to justice.
He sees it as a failure of the system, not just a setback in his own case.
It's huge. So you have this whole chain of events, the initial incident, these procedural questions, the denied accommodation, the recusal, and then this really unique legal theory.
It's a lot to unpack.
It really makes you think. What happens when the rules of the legal system clash with the right to access justice?
Especially for people who might be more vulnerable within that system.
Exactly. And with technology becoming so central to our courts, how do we ensure that everyone has equal access?
That everyone's rights are protected. Food for thought.
Definitely.